So how can you learn leadership? It might not seem like too crazy of a question until you're actually having to learn leadership. That is today's topic. Let's go. So how can you learn leadership? Now, it might not seem like a difficult question, but when you're in the process of learning it, I know for me, it can kind of feel like really confusing. I know recently I shared in a video and even on a podcast where I dove into like the difference between just like learning a skill of playing baseball and playing basketball. And if you're using the same skills you learned in baseball, like teamwork, sportsmanship, all that stuff is important, but if you're trying to throw a basketball like how you're throwing a baseball, like it's not going to work, right? You have to just learn to develop new skills. You shouldn't get angry at your ability of throwing a basketball. You just have to learn to develop those skills. But what happens if we're not talking about a sport? What happens if we're not talking about something physical? What if we're talking about something like leadership? That's what I wanted to talk about here in this video. Now, we took a deeper dive in episode 666 of the Master Your Mindset podcast. So if you enjoy this, definitely head over there. We're going to take a little bit deeper of a dive over there. But what I really want to pull out is I want to pull out universal principles, all right? Universal principles. And the reason why is because we have a lot of people who think that if you're not great at leading when you were born, if you're not a natural born leader, that you could never be an incredible leader. Like it's just not possible because you have to have those skills that you've acquired at birth to be able to lead people effectively. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that people who are natural born leaders aren't cool. I mean, that must be awesome. It's not me. It's not a lot of the people that I come in contact with. That's something you can't necessarily control. But I want you to think about this. Are you comparing other leaders out there, other incredible leaders, with your starting place and their ending place? So let me give you an example, like John Maxwell. Am I comparing where I am right now on my leadership journey to where he is right now at his age and having led so many millions of people? Like that would not be fair. What if we compared apples to apples? It's a powerful thing to actually sit down and actually think about. Now, as I was going through this process myself, I started to learn from John Maxwell. That's the person that I really respected as a leader. You're going to find out that's one of the things that is very important when you're learning how to lead. But what I found out is like, he wasn't great at leading in the beginning either. He had some natural charisma. He had some natural characteristics that were really helpful. But when he first started to get help, he needed help with his church. He needed help to get people to come to the church and to take actions and to do all this stuff, right? The people who had the most influence, he needed to win their influence over so that he can win over the rest of the influence of the church. And I remember when he brought up this idea of finding somebody that he really not only respected and trusted, but that he basically what's called deep work, like really went all in with learning this person's philosophy. I think it was Kurt Kampmeyer is who it was that he originally connected with. And Kurt had a great question. It was like, what is your personal growth plan? At the time, John Maxwell did not have a personal growth plan, and he realized that he needed one. And that's when he dove in to Kurt's philosophy and started to become the leader that he is here now. Now, are you comparing the fact that you're just getting started leading with where John Maxwell is now, forgetting about all the places that he was before when he was struggling, when he had to find a mentor, when he had to learn those skills? So realize that it's all about learning skills and doing the three things we're going to talk about here today. And it has nothing to do with whether or not you were born with great ability, even though that'd be great if you do. But really, most people aren't. They don't have those natural abilities and they have to develop them because they're all skills. All right. They're all skills. So how can you develop leadership? I want to break you down a three-part process here. All right. Three-part process. All right. Some of which we kind of talked about already. Number one is learn from someone that you respect as a leader. So if you're wanting to become a better leader, find somebody who you believe is a better leader, somebody that you respect, somebody who has similar values to you. It's the same with business, guys. If you're trying to grow a business, don't try and find somebody that you don't respect or that you don't like, that doesn't talk to you in your language or what really motivates you. Don't go and try and find that person to try and help you, right? You got to find somebody that you respect, somebody that you believe is this is a person who's great at leadership, great at health and fitness, great at parenting, great at this. And then you get behind them and you do what's called deep work. I'm reading this great book by Cal Newport. It's called Deep Work. It really talks about the philosophy of diving deep into the skills that you really want to master so that it just starts to happen automatically for you. You don't even have to think about it. If you have to think about leading, if you have to think about coaching, that means that you haven't done enough deep work. And there's nothing wrong with you. It just means you need to dive in deeper. So when I say find a mentor, I mean find a mentor and go all in with that stuff. I'm not saying, hey, let's become a better leader. So let's pick 42 other leaders and try to blend it all together. That's not the best use of your time. Go all in with one. And yes, after that, then you can move on to different things, but trying to split it up into multiple different things, especially when leadership is one of those things that you can lead a multitude of different ways. Becoming a modern leader is not the only way of becoming a leader. I'm just teaching you what has worked for me and the thousands of people that I have helped, but it doesn't mean that it's the only way, right? There's many different ways, but if you're trying to work them all at the same time, it can get very overwhelming and you're not going to get really quick results because you're going to be changing too many things at once, right? So the first step is learn from someone you respect as a leader. The second one is once you start learning and you start taking action, you cannot allow other people's actions to mean something about you. If there was the most important step in this, it's this one right here. If you make other people's actions mean something about you, you're going to lose something here. You're going to not be authentic. You're going to try and become somebody else that you're not. And when you do that, you water yourself down. You don't get to be the best version of you. So when other people comment on what you're doing, say things about what you're doing, oh, you're just changing because now you're the leader. Oh, now you're worried about this. Now you're worried. All of those things are because of them. It's going through their filter of limiting beliefs and things that they haven't taken action on, and it has nothing to do with you. Now, I don't mean to completely ignore it, even though I would agree that there's some people that you can ignore and you probably know who those people are. But maybe you do want to listen to a little bit of what's going on the outside, but not because it means something about you, but because this is a big science experiment. I want you to think about this leadership thing as a big science experiment. I tried this. It didn't work. I tried this. It didn't work. What's the next thing to try? Not because, oh my God, I tried this. It didn't work and I suck. No, it's a leadership science experiment. And the more willing you're actually going to go out there and to try multiple things, the more you're going to find your way and your system and your structure that's actually going to be effective at leading people, all right? So number 2 is don't make other people's actions mean something about you. And number 3 is once you start to learn those things, start teaching others. Guys, I started teaching about coaching. I started teaching about leading before I was even ready. By the way, being ready is just a thought. It's just something up here that when we decide we're ready, we're ready. And if we decide we're not ready, then we're not ready. But I decided, you know what? I don't necessarily feel ready, but I'm going to step into ready. And that's when I started to learn. I started to really pour in from a mentor and use those skills to teach other people how to do it. You know what's really powerful about teaching other people to do it? You don't want to be a hypocrite. Integrity is really important to me, not only in the police field, but also my coaching business, also when it comes to leading my family, also when it comes to giving my kids advice, also when it comes to leading myself. I can't tell somebody to do something and then have that same situation come up in my life and do something else entirely different. I can't do that. Maybe some people can. I don't feel like the real me. So for that, I teach people so that I can be held more accountable. But there's a second piece to this too, is when you're teaching people the thing that you want to learn even more, it gives you this ability of doing deep work. How many of you guys have ever been to a training experience where you're learning something and you know you're not necessarily going to be tested or have to do that in the end? How much more all in are you versus if they're hey, at the end of this, you're going to teach a part of this to somebody else? For me, I'm all in. I got to take all the notes because I don't want to look like an idiot, right? I want to make sure that I have all of this stuff and really be able to share it with other people. So there's so much power in you teaching other people how to do that thing, not only because it will do incredible things for you and your deep work and your growth, but also it's really what I'm really after, which is leading other leaders. Because here's the thing. You can lead the people that are under you, but what happens when you develop them into leaders? So you don't have to necessarily be there. They can actually lead people. And then those people can lead people. That is really where, for me, leadership is all about. It's all about influence, but it's also how can I help other people develop that influence, me pass along some of my influence to them so it doesn't have to be all me, and so it could be them too. You empower them to be incredible leaders. And that is how you learn how to be a great leader, right? Number 1 is learn from somebody you respect as a leader. Do the deep work. Number 2 is don't make other people's actions mean something about you. And number 3 is teach others while you're learning in the process, all right? I hope this video has been helpful for you. I hope you go out there and you take actions and you get some quick wins, and I would love to hear about it below in this video. And if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscribe bell because Mr. Beast told me to tell you that. But also, if you want to deeper dive into this, I actually just released episode 666 of the Master Your Mindset podcast with Mark. Definitely dive in if you want some more details and reach out if you ever need anything. I appreciate you guys so much. Keep leading from the front. See you on the next one. Bye, everybody.